Kenwright. Thank you very much for this. This is good to speak. We've known each other obviously for a few years through different projects, different things that we've done together. I obviously know who you are, but do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background?
Sure. Stephen Kenwright. I own a specialist creative SEO agency called Rise at Seven. We've been going for just over a year now. Previously to that, I was head of digital at Pendragon PLC, so working client side on Stratstone, Evans Halshaw, and car store, car dealerships. And then before that, I spent about 7 years at an SEO agency called Branded 3. So I've been around a little bit, yeah.
Good, good. And what was the inspiration around Rise at Seven? What's the story there?
Bit of a mixture, lots of serendipitous coincidences happening. I think ultimately I'd always kind of planned on joining another SEO agency after Branded 3, and I wanted to go client side to try and experience, what the other side of the table looks like. I don't think that you can be a great agency unless you really understand that.
No.
And I think it's probably cut a little bit shorter than I was originally intending to. And I'll cut a long story short now as well. But my co-founder, Carrie, she applied to be on The Apprentice, and she got through the last 30, so the kind of last interview stages before actually getting on TV.
Oh, wow.
And I got her to put the business plan together for that, which is what Rise is now, is the business plan that we put together for The Apprentice.
No way.
And she didn't get on, and happened to tweet that she didn't get on, and then we happened to be seen by an investor who said, well, I'll stump the money up, and if you want to do it, then let's do it. And then the rest is history, as they say.
Amazing. So how many staff have you got now then?
We're up to 29 now. So growing pretty quickly. We added 10 more people since lockdown started. Slowed down a little bit when lockdown first started, but sure. From 2 to 29 in a year, so growing quick.
That's pretty good. So let's chat about search then, particularly site search, I guess, or product discovery, or whatever phrase you want to use. The facts around that to begin with are that 70% of websites that we know use Google custom search, which is crazy considering that's a 15-year-old site search that doesn't really look much different to as it did 15 years ago. Other facts being that 85% of e-commerce retailers don't actually optimize site search, which is crazy considering the potential with it. So moving on from that, I guess, your clients in particular, how much emphasis, and I get that your proposition, I guess, is a little bit different around SEO and that kind of creation piece, but on site search, how much emphasis do your clients pay on that, and do you feel that's enough? Where is that focus?
I would say that generally speaking, my opinion of site search is it's like the biggest, best kept secret in marketing generally, right? So I think it's because it tends to be no one's job.
That's
probably what there is common across a lot of our clients. And I think the commonality really is if a client has an e-commerce team, site search probably sits with them. And if they don't have an e-commerce team, it probably doesn't sit with anyone. And that's kind of how it goes. And we work in a variety of sectors. E-commerce is one that we have a lot of, but particularly actually just retail generally.
Yeah.
And they tend to be on that maturity scale, have moved away from custom search and have something.
Yeah.
Whether it's out of the box or more often than not, they have some sort of solution. But a lot of our clients don't have a real strategy around it. They kind of have a better bit of tech than they did have.
Yeah.
They measure site search in Google Analytics, for example, and they maybe do something with it, but most of the time I wouldn't say that there's an emphasis on actually optimizing it or really, consistently getting data from that and using it for something.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you're completely right. And I saw the tweet Paul you did around this, around which team does site search sit with, because is it a behavioral piece? Technically, yes. So is it more of a trading kind of function? Or is it core e-com? Or is it marketing? Where does that really sit? And I guess it depends on how technical you want to be, because from my experience, optimization depends on what you're trying to achieve. So is it technical? Is it you're looking around adding functionality? Are you looking around redesigning that search box? Are you looking around data? So is it actually improving, matching and the data itself and the algorithm? So I guess it depends, doesn't it, on the what the ambition is, where they want to try and get to with it. Yeah.
I think that if you kind of break it down to a team or a person's objective within an organisation,
Mm.
I think the likelihood that they have someone who's in charge of site search increases a lot when they have someone who's in charge of conversion.
Yeah.
I think if that is a metric that's someone's job,
Mm-hmm.
then site search tends to take more of a focus. And there's every business has people who are focused on revenue, and most businesses have people who are focused on traffic. But they're the two, right? So there isn't a middle person unless you have a more sort of mature e-commerce business most of the time that has that.
I agree. I think there's a third though. I think design comes into it and UX and I guess this could be interesting for you around the kind of creative piece because is site search really looked at as a design thing? Is it ever really redesigned? A search results page is ever really looked at and thought about at the UX of them? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. No, I think that they're probably neglected more than 404 pages.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. There's probably slightly more emphasis around the search box if you've got like an autofill quick search, but the results page themselves, probably not. No, but then does that really hit the trend with the industry around search? You look at a Google SERP, vast differences over the past many years, but if you look at maybe a month ago, is it really much different? So I don't know. Where would you say the place to start then is? Obviously, I know a good place you can find an audit, hint, but where would you say is a good place to start with site search?
I think site search more than SEO actually is really obvious.
Mm-hmm.
So I think SEO has got a bit of a black box around it because you're trying to reverse engineer a search engine that you don't know anything about with Google. Whereas, if you are looking to actually make some inroads with your site search, just use it. Just start typing some things and say, would this actually serve me as a person if I'm looking for, and especially when you've been working at an organisation for any amount of time, more than a month,
mm-hmm.
you start to get familiar with the product. Probably, let's say you work at a travel business, you've looked at the holiday destinations, right?
Yeah.
You work at a fashion brand, you've had a look at some of the clothes, and you start to think how you would go about actually buying an outfit.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually start typing things that normal people type, and this is one of the kind of great misdirects as well, the numbers aren't the same numbers as you get in search volumes in Google Ads, where 70,000 people search for dresses every week or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Maybe 70 people that are searching for a product, but they're 70 people that you should really be serving. Yeah. Whereas Google, there are 70,000 million businesses that would happily serve those customers. So I think a really, really straightforward thing to do first is start using it and see, does it behave in the way that I would want it to? Are there really frustrating things like autocomplete taking me to products that aren't there? Or, how are those search results ordered?
Yeah.
Am I getting the thing that I really expect to see first?
Is the relevancy there? Yeah.
Exactly. And then the second thing is, well, your competitors will do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like who does a really good job of it? And, even if it's you have a go at your core competitors who aren't massive brands and they aren't doing a great job of it, that tells you there's a real opportunity there.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'd agree. And then going on from that, how would you, I guess that's the first manual step in identifying issues, opportunities, tracking from then on in. So obviously you mentioned GA, which is a great place to start. Is there any special wizardry around tracking that you know of? Any ideas?
There's lots of things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Just turning on site search tracking in GA is a massive step that actually I've worked with businesses very recently who haven't done that.
Oh, really?
So so that's an obvious thing. But then trying to track what you can track that you just want to know. Things like zero result searches is a really obvious thing you would say. What kind of things are people searching for that aren't getting any results? And that's not always something that GA will tell you, but Tag Manager can.
Yeah.
So if you're firing the right events, you are able to see these kind of keywords are serving no results, but people are looking for them all the time. And then it's really obvious that you need to either get that product in stock if you don't have it, or create some content around that, or something that's going to give someone a place to go rather than just getting frustrated. So I think actually Tag Manager is a really good way of trying to anything from, even just scroll depth on a search results page.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
if someone is actually using that function, as far as most businesses go, is are they using it or not? Does that person convert? But if someone's using it and then they're spending, 5 minutes on that search results page trying to find a result, they've scrolled right down to the bottom, they've scrolled back up thinking they've missed something, then again, you've probably got a relevancy problem. So I think anything that GA doesn't do, there is a way of doing that with Tag Manager. Pretty much, it's just what would you like to know, basically.
Yeah. I think some good points there. Firstly, no results, definitely. Scroll depth, good behavior metric there. Any others you feel are interesting? I guess because site search can be more of a discovery piece as well from a retailer's point of view, can't it? So looking for opportunity for buying a merchandising opportunity, or whether it's a content piece around what are people trying to find from a content about a brand. Any way of tracking them, do you feel? Any opportunity there?
Sure, yeah. I mean, just even volumes that come from site search. One of the things that we use it for more than anything else is trying to assess demand for product areas.
Okay.
And we work with Misguided, for example, and they have launched product lines or really evolved product lines based on the fact that they're getting a lot of interest on that internally on the site itself.
Yeah.
So they're doing things like the bridal section of the website. They've just launched a bridal section. That's something that a lot of people are looking for. Maternity as well, especially.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that wouldn't necessarily be obvious per se, but is a real crucial thing for someone who's actually going to buy something. You are pregnant. Is this going to fit? That's a really, in theory, it should be obvious. So I think just the volumes of keywords that people are looking for sure, but then even just the volume of people that use the search is a really crucial thing, because I think if you're finding that a lot of people are searching for one or two certain things, that probably gives you an indication that should be in your top navigation. That should be somewhere very prominent on the website. And I think you can kind of tie that bit back to Google as well, because the number of people, you can kind of think of it as a good thing that someone is searching for your brand plus a keyword. But the first thing to assess when you've gone back to the original search engine Google is it just that I'm not making that prominent on my website and people can't find it? It's that look at the volume and try and understand why that is the volume. Why are people searching for that thing? Is it not there? Is it not prominent? Is it not in stock?
Yeah. And do you feel that the way, so obviously that's around what people are searching for, but do you feel the way people search is different in modern, especially when you look at much more natural language kind of search types and the content that we're serving as well back to them? Do you feel like that's evolved over time? Do you feel like the way people search has changed on site?
I think it's evolved. I don't think it's anything like what Google has. I think those two things have got really separate.
Yeah.
I think people have a real expectation that they can ask a question with real non sequiturs, or with all sorts of filler words, and just type it or talk it or whatever to Google.
Whatever input that is,
I think what's still the case with on-site search is people tend to use a keyword or two keywords. It's shorter tail terms for sure, because people first and foremost are looking for something that they expect to be there. Whereas with Google, it tends to be people are using the Google for an answer to a question more than anything else. And if they know where something's going to be, they probably go straight there. Instead of Googling cheap flights, they go to Skyscanner, that kind of thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you feel that, especially your work around creative SEO, do you feel like that content, do you try and weave that into the site in that type of ways, or does your content sit at the side? How does that kind of work?
It definitely depends on the retailer.
Okay.
But the more common way of doing things now, certainly how we do them, is that content will be weaved into the rest of the website. So when we're looking at an e-commerce brand like Cath Kids, for example, and it's really common that a lot of retailers still have a blog somewhere, and that content exists in that little silo separately. And by this point, they've got 5-10 years of archived blog posts as well. And it's just a thing. It's over there, and really not many people use it.
No.
And actually there is a load of information in there that if it was just moved into the website itself,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be incredibly useful. So I think the first point is we don't want to just open up site search to the blog, because if you've got 10 years of blog posts and you've got products, the only way that this is going to go is that someone's going to get an out-of-date blog post.
Yeah.
There's zero chance without some real effort and engineering work that you're going to get the most relevant result to people every time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. There are very few bits of site search tech that are smart enough to do that out of the box, if at all. It's going to have to be strategic work.
For sure.
So I think rather than just saying, we've got all of this stuff, let people find it, I think it's more a case of, well, let's take some content out of this silo of blog or whatever it might be where that content exists, and let's make some real emphasis on what's important, what are the few things that we expect people to be looking for, and then let's actually put that, again, top navigation for sure. I mean, most retail brands have 500 things in there now. That's normal. 501 is not a problem.
The mega nav,
really crucial buying guide, So
yeah.
I think it's generally better to weave that in, and I think generally best to not just turn it loose and say anything that's on the website is fair game.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned tech then, and I think that's an important point, because it's only been, I think, in the past few years where there's been abilities for content to be indexed alongside product, and I feel like it has only been the past few years where more enterprise level search engines have been able to say, here is some product, but also here is some content alongside it that's related in a relevant way, at least. Are there any kind of tech vendors that you feel are doing that properly, or are there any that are doing search in a good way? Do you see?
I think there are a few. I think obviously you guys are doing a good job of it. I think generally speaking, the platform that search is built on has improved massively. So although there are vendors, there are technologies that several vendors build on that make a big difference. And I think like when you saw Search Appliance retired, one of the real trends that I saw was people going back to the thing that came with their CMS. That was a real sort of change, because people had a lot of brands that, particularly like financial services and more B2B brands, and the ones that had taken it seriously but didn't have quite so much of a reason to take it seriously as the e-com retailers did. They tended to be using this because they had a load of like intranet stuff and that kind of thing that was powered by the same sort of search. And they tend to have these platforms that could power a good search experience that they hadn't used, and they'd left it on Search Appliance for far too long, basically. So what I saw at that time was people not really going for a replacement, but actually going for the tech that had evolved massively, because so many of the like when you put Search Appliance in, your CMS probably didn't have that. It probably didn't have a decent search function.
No,
and they still don't. Like WordPress's search function is not great.
No, agreed. Yeah,
but
definitely isn't.
You're looking at something like Episerver or Sitecore, and you've got Apache Solr powered search functions.
Yeah,
they're good.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And Solr versus Elastic has been that constant battle over the past sort of 15 years, 20 years in search. And I feel that although Elastic's capabilities are arguably better in one way, Solr's still great. Like they're obviously different approaches, but technically both open source piece of technology that can be really, really used well. So
that's true. I think as well, like so much of this is strategy and not tech. I mean, if you look at a brand that you think does a very good job of this, the chances are 20% of that is tech, 80% of that is people thinking about it and actually testing and using the data to actually inform a better experience, because it just doesn't happen out of the box. It needs some thought.
Definitely does. We have that with many clients who, a lot of our clients are retail based, so it's interesting when you look at quite complex synonym matching, the whole kind of hypernym piece. There's certainly certain strategies that work for some but don't work for others. So it has to be tailored. And although out of the box, Elasticsearch is great and our tech based on that is powerful, there's still a lot of tweaking that needs to be done. There's still a lot of strategy work, and there's a lot of, like you said, the extra 20% of effort needs to go in to make something good and usable. So it's definitely a mix. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thank you very much for that. That was really, really useful. I hope everyone found it great, and I'll chat to you soon.
Thanks, Graham.